Okay, so sell, right? It's like a four-letter word, and so many health professionals and practitioners they shy away from this. And this is something that we've talked about before. And one of the things that I want to offer here is that if you're put off by that word of selling or sales, you probably have a good reason to. But what I'm going to say is let's like reclaim it and let's actually find out what it really means, because most times people hear sales and it's like a used car salesman or some kind of strong arm, uh, high pressure hard sell, right? And you never want to do that. And I've had other business mentors and coaches and classes and things where they're like, oh, the art of selling, and you need to be able to sell in order to like make money and help people, right? It's a skill, you have to develop it, and they're not wrong, like they're right. But a lot of times they go, oh, we're going to teach you how to do sales without hard selling, and then they proceed to teach you how to hard sell people. Right? So what that looks like is going, oh, you would like to do this program, it's the perfect program for you, here's the price, and then you just stop talking and wait, and it's like the stare down. And the person who talks first loses, right? And they look at it like it's a confrontation. And I'm like, if this isn't hard selling, like, what do you think hard selling is? Like, what are we talking about? This is not natural. And I'm very open minded about all kinds of things. And I've tried and done experiments with all these techniques. Like, I've done all this stuff. I'm like, well, I'm going to seem like an asshole, but I'm going to try it out, see if it works. I'm going to start with what these people are doing. I'm going to try to replicate it, and then I'm going to make it mine. Right. So I've done all this stuff on a phone where you're like, the price of the program is, and then you tell it, and then you're just like, and you hit mute. How long can you wait? And you do that. And then they go, oh, well, I don't know. And then, so I'm not a big fan of the hard sell. Okay. And there's actually a whole thing of, they call it the back half of the sale is when somebody knows the price of the product. Cause it's like, it's all good. You're like, hey, tell me about your problem. And you do the consult and the intake and all this stuff. And then it's like the rapport, the connection, everything's there. And then you tell them the price of the thing. And now the actual real sale starts because the person knows what they're going to have to invest in the thing. So that's what these like sales guys call it, the back half of the sale. That's where the real selling happens. That's the hardest thing, whatever. I've done different versions of this, and I'm going to kind of coach you on something that I've discovered, and there's pros and cons to this. But one of them is to not have a back half of the sale by just getting the price like upfront as soon as you possibly can. And you don't have to do it in their face. You can do it in subtle ways. You can allude to it. You can show different things. You can have information about your stuff. Like, they can have a rough idea of what your price is going to be. You can frame them so that when they do like officially find out the price, it's not a big startle or a big surprise. So I try to make the back half of the sale, which basically means the prospective patient or client has the same information you have. That's when the real sale starts, because now they know the price. I try to push that as early as I can into the interaction, right? So that helps to get rid of a lot of things, because you don't have to fight objections that people don't have because they've already left your ecosystem because it's nowhere near like what they were looking for, or the price range is way off or whatever. So, that's one way to do this, is to just not have a back half of the sale, because everything is that as best you can. Selling, though, in general, it doesn't have to do with money. It's belief. So when we come in with our different mindsets or biases, like, oh, I'm just going to sell something, I don't like sales because it's just about me benefiting financially from somebody's problem or whatever. Forget about the money. The money just follows the belief. And the amount of money somebody's willing to allocate, or the amount of chips they're willing to push into the pot, is dependent on their belief, right? Like poker. If I really believe I've got the best hand, I'm going to shove those chips in, right? I know there's strategy with poker. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's kind of the thing. You've got to believe that you've got a real chance. The chips, the money, it's a formality. It's important because then we need it to use for other things so we can live and exist, because that's how the world works, right? We have to kind of accept that. And a lot of times too, while I'm on this, practitioners tend to have like this thing with money where they want to help other people, or they think money, like, oh, I don't want to accumulate wealth, it just seems stagnant. We have a fractional reserve banking system. When you make money, you put it in the bank. The bank doesn't just put it in a box with your name on it. The bank then loans out 10 times that amount of money to small businesses and people who need to buy houses and cars. So actually, the more money you make, the more you put into the bank will 10x that amount and loan it out. So you're actually, the more money you make, the more money you're helping your community have access to. it's really kind of, I mean, it's not a good system. Like the fractional reserve bank system, like the bottom is just, it's fragile, right? But this is the system we have. So if we look at the reality of it, there is no stagnation, there is no excess. You get it and it moves immediately. That's why banks are terrified about everybody wanting their cash, because they don't have it. They've got 1/10, if that, of the cash reserves they're supposed to have. So you can never run on the banks. And that's how you get like a Great Depression kind of deal. So anyway, I say all this just to like calm the mindset down. If there's any like, well, I shouldn't, accumulate wealth, or, you can accumulate wealth and then you can distribute it how you want, or you can accumulate wealth, put it in a savings account or whatever, and it's still reserved for you. And the bank will distribute it according to their policies, or the credit union or whatever. So I try to destigmatize the money thing, because it's important for us to make money to keep our businesses going, because you're obviously not going to help anybody if you don't have any cash flow. That's like the top 3 reasons why businesses fail all have to do with running out of money. You got to have it. You just have to have it. So you may as well charge what you're worth, and then also realize that it's important for the person to pay something for what it is you do. It symbolizes their commitment, their belief. And I know this is something that like some of these kind of business coachy people say, and it's a little thin when they talk about it of, the more people pay for something, the more they value it. Therefore, charge them up the wazoo. Like, it's not that. You don't have to get every single nickel, but you can charge like a take me serious price, and that's going to filter out people who don't take you seriously. And I think that's fair. So you guys are going to do what you want to do, with all that information. But why I say this is because people's attitude about selling usually comes down to their attitude about money and, taking money. But you're not actually taking money. You're just acting as a middleman between the person who has a problem. You solve the problem. You put the money in the bank loans it out to other people with problems so they can help solve their own problems. The bank, of course, makes a fuck ton of money in that process, but this is the system that we're in, right? And of course, there's other ways we could do this, but that's pretty much it. So here's what I get from practitioners, and you might recognize your answer here. But when I ask on the application about how confident are you at sales, right? I don't do sales. I don't sell anything. I just educate and allow people to make their own decision. Okay, that is a sale. I don't do sales. I don't sell anything. I just educate and allow people to make their own decision. No, that's a sale. That's a belief sale. You're educating people. You're selling them on a new perspective, right? It's not, sale doesn't mean take money. Just like when people say bought in, right? You can buy into all kinds of things that don't have financial money leaving at all. Like you can buy into a philosophy. You're buying with belief. The money's a marker, a byproduct, right? If I'm selling something, I feel uncomfortable and things get weird. If I'm telling them what they need because they really need it and I know it will help them, A+, easy, okay. Telling somebody what they need, that they really need and that will help them, is a sale, right? If I'm selling something I feel uncomfortable, if I tell them what they need, I'm great. that is selling. It's just you're good at it. You're not hard selling. It's a belief sale. And that's part of your job, is to have an expanded perspective and help people with their beliefs. I literally feel my lips seal shut when I'm thinking about suggesting a product to my patients. I do find it easier to suggest something if I have had success using the product myself. I think I already hit that one today though, right? Because it's integrity. You've got personal experience, you feel more integrity with it, right? I find it easier to suggest something if I have had success using the product myself. That means their belief is strong, so they have less resistance transferring that belief to the patient, right? But why should we rely on our own experience with a medicinal for our belief to be strong? Are there other ways? I really tried to avoid sales at all costs, would prefer to educate the patient and give them the option to buy. That's a soft sale. That's selling, right? We're seeing a theme here. This is my world, right? I do this with the complex chronic condition people too. Like I go through what they're saying. I look for themes. What is this universal here? If I squint my eyes, what is this like conglomerate human? What are the beliefs around any given topic, right? I tend to want to help people and have guilt about pulling them into the thing that will bring me financial benefit, fearing that I have lack of integrity. These are all valid, right? By the way, I'm pulling out these words. Some of them are from, I don't know who said what, but I know these came from real people and some of them are here, right? It's okay. Like all this stuff is valid and true. And I think what this shows is just I have a different understanding of the word sale or selling than practitioners that kind of come in. And so I want to kind of offer. I want to make you an offer. Maybe you'll buy into a new belief about selling that doesn't have anything to do with money necessarily. It's really about, and it bridges it's really about what you're already doing. So when I say attraction, conversion, selling, oh, yucky product, right? Don't get that. The selling is it's the culmination of the conversion, which is education. You educate somebody up to a point where they're like, I need to make a decision here. And the sales is about decision. It's not about buy my thing and make me rich. It's about make a decision. What are we doing here long term? I made mine. I've accepted you. Are you in or not? Yeah, I'm in. Okay, do something then. Move money. That's what money, it's a marker of intent, right? So this doesn't have to be more complicated than it is, but I understand where a lot of this comes from. And I've felt a lot of this too, like hoping that my cheeks aren't red because I'm nervous, like blushing. The first time I did a package, it was a fucking shit show going, okay, here's the package, here's the treatment plan, here's how it looks. And I was like doing all this math on a piece of paper in front of this guy, and it came out to like $1,600. And I finished my thing, and he was like, yeah, sounds good. What? Sounds good. I'm like sweating through my clothes, everything. I was so nervous. Well, I had to get my head around this stuff. And part of it really is just like, understand some of your value. Where does that come from? Reduction of complexity and other things, right? There's like at least 5 different value points that you're making. And then put a price on it, especially compared to other services that are out there, other solutions, right? Value-based, not selling your time, right? But like solving the problem, it gets a lot easier. And I find people are actually quite happy with like higher ticket stuff. The ones that make it, the ones that are a good fit, they're in the world now. And then like the way I do it anyway, which you can also do, is once they're in that world, you just take care of them. You make them breakfast or whatever. Like it's not a thing, I don't have to itemize every like, well, you ate a chocolate or whatever. I don't fucking care, because it's just part of how I want to operate. I've got a patient or a person I'm working with, not a patient, right? A person I'm working with in the UK, and it was a whole debacle sending her herbs. And with currency conversions and all this shit, so I had somebody in Sweden sending it, and then it was the Netherlands, and everything kept moving back and forth. I wound up losing, to get her the herbs she ordered, it cost me like $7, right? That's not a scalable model. I wouldn't want to do that 1,000 times, be out $7,000 just so people could get herbs that they paid for. But I'm not going to come after her for $7. I'll just charge more next time or whatever and accommodate it. But I really just want to take care of her, right? So it's like these kinds of relationships are possible if you've got a big enough offer in the first place that makes for a long-term relationship, right? Not like a transactional, buy my ebook or something like that. So I hope that clears up some of the thing with selling. I don't want sell to be a 4-letter word. I use the business jargon of like attraction, conversion, selling product. I got it from a mentor. It's very clean. It helps you know where your weak spots are and what you're talking about. So like if you say, oh, I'm having trouble, I need more patience, that we're going to start looking in the attraction phase, right? But if you say, oh, I got a bunch of people coming into my group, they're not buying my program, then we need to look at conversion. We need to look at your education. What's your vault like? You know what I mean? It gives you a physiology, like a map of how to study this. But the business terms are kind of anatomical for our business. So that's what I use. But I know it can be a put off because people come in with different contexts around selling. I think it's like the attraction, like marketing and selling are the two kind of triggery areas. Most like healing professionals are really interested in product, meaning giving a service of doing their acupuncture or making a program or whatever. And they're very much interested in the conversion part, which is education and teaching stuff. No problem, right? Most people are like, I'm heart-centered. I like to do this stuff. I have to get paid for it. I'm scared. I don't like it. It's yucky. It's gross. But it turns out how we've talked ourselves into this, like, well, I just like to educate people and let them make a decision. That is sales. You're already really good at it. Like, don't think you're not. Yes, ma'am.